get ready for a new episode of Call Me Crazy with Shiri Gabriel.
Welcome, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Call Me Crazy with Shiri Gabriel. And today is such a pleasure to have an incredible guest that I met not long ago, but we really hit it off because of her energy, because of what she does, who she is, because of what I do. And I thought it would be such a great idea to bring her on the podcast for her to share her wisdom. And let me just give you a little bit of background about Lynne Brisdon. So she is actually a leadership coach. She coaches business leaders to thrive while building capacity to define strategy, manage change, and develop collaborative, high-performing teams. And her unique approach, and this is what we're going to talk about, melding that emotional intelligence with coaching and healing in dynamic, deeply moving ways leads to practical, applicable results. So that's a good intro for such a powerful person who has so many years of wisdom and coaching and working with leaders. So, Lynne, welcome to my podcast. Thank you for being here. I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and a little bit about what you've done and what has brought you to this stage in your life. So welcome, Lynne.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Shiri. And I love the name of your podcast, Call Me Crazy, because, for years and years, I've always felt I was a little bit out on the fringes because in my background, something that really, really appealed to me was understanding more about spirituality and energetics and, how we interact with one another in ways that, are kind of beyond what we can measure and beyond the tangible, and so it's was something that I sort of kept on the sideline for a little while I was making my way in my career. And then as I progressed as a coach, I started to hear more information about how neuroscience was supporting what I had learned as an energy healer, as a psychic reader, that we are energetic beings inhabiting a body. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so now I'm kind of bringing all these pieces together and calling it energy first leadership. And we'll talk more about that as we go through. Yes. But just a little bit. So I was working in media back in, a long time ago, and then segued into working in education, supporting people in an business startup program. And along the side, I was learning about healing. I was learning about how we interact energetically. I was doing this for my own personal development so that I could close the gap between what I thought was possible for my life and what was actually happening in my life. And doing a lot of that energy work and clearing up my own internal programming actually helped me to make many, many moves in my career path and get to, a better place financially, having more responsibility, better positions, and all that kind of thing. So now I'm seeing that as a very, very strong pathway that people can take for their personal development. And so that's
that and so let's go back to that concept of energy first leadership. Tell us a little bit more about that, because it was the first time that I had ever heard that term being used, and maybe you coined it. So please enlighten us about that.
Well, yes, I did coin it, and it comes from my husband, who passed a few years ago, who I still call him a spiritual teacher. I'm sure he's teaching on the other side now. But, we'd be having a conversation about something, about, how I was feeling about something, or an interaction that was happening in my workplace. And he'd always say, energy first, Lynne, energy first.
Wow.
or I would be worried about something like the car would break down and you know how that kind of, when something goes wrong, our energy kind of takes a dive, our emotions go down. It's like, lift it up, energy first. And so that's where I'm going to put these pieces together. So, and what I mean by that is really being intentional and aware of the kind of energy that we're exuding, the vibe that we're coming in with, like yourself, energy. Sherry, you're a high energy person, and people feel that when you walk into a room, when you interact with them online. And so we all have that kind of energy field, that vibe that we're carrying around with us all the time. And while we may think that, well, that's, the vibe I'm putting out, the way I'm feeling is just the way it is, we actually do have a choice. We can shift that for ourselves. And so the practices that, I've learned and share with others will help people to shift their energy in a way that's going to have a more positive influence so that we
That's
can,
amazing.
yeah.
That's Lynn, and that's brilliant because, and a few things that come to mind with that, and obviously the energetic presence, which is what you really talk about. That
Yeah.
I think the idea of, and this is what I talk to clients and my team and my students. The how do you show up, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes, and tell me what you think about this, but sometimes people use the excuse of, oh, well, I'm an introvert or I'm shy, and so I'm not as energetic as you are. Can you please correct us on that it has nothing to do with being an introvert? Yes, am I right?
You're absolutely right. Because I'm an introvert,
There you go.
and I can still get really excited. And yes, the thing is that, but the other thing that people will say is, oh, well, this happened today or that happened today, and that's bringing my energy down. Yes, that can. The important thing is to be aware of what is impacting you and then find a way to shift it for yourself. It's not about being unreal or faking it. It's saying, what is the vibe that I want to be presenting to the world? So if you think about your interactions with other people, there are people that you want to do business with. There's people that you respect when they say, hey, can you help me with this? And, they're usually the kind of people that are acknowledging you, appreciating you, seeing your gift, seeing, what you can bring to the table. They're not coming from a place of judgment or worry about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You just get that. And so rather than kind of being reactive and just kind of going with whatever we're feeling in the moment, it's like taking that millisecond. And I think Viktor Frankl said it best. And it's like, between stimulus and response, there's a gap, and it's up to us to really be clear about how we're coming out of the other side of that gap. Yeah. So with all that, we have far more potential to have an energetic presence.
Yeah.
That is going to influence others with positivity and influence ourselves with positivity. I mean, we are a full-time job.
Yeah. I love that. It
Yeah,
just sunk in. We
yeah.
are a full-time job. Yes. I love that.
Like, how often have you, as anyone, woken up in the morning going, oh, I got to get this done, or what about that bill to pay, or what about those papers I can't find for my tax filing?
Yes.
And we can get into that worry trap.
Yeah.
And it really
Yeah.
can take our energy down.
Yeah.
And we can also find that place within ourselves, is that the observer self is says, oh, look at that. Look what you're doing. You're taking yourself down that hole again. How about we just sit back for a moment, maybe listen to some meditation recordings or use some practices that we've learned, some
Yeah.
breathing, and bring ourselves back into a state that has the potential and the capacity to bring you into a more uplifting, positive vibration,
Yes.
your presence. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
Things just start to, can just start to fall into place.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's so people wake up to the to-do list, right?
Mm.
I wake up to the to be list. And I wish that people would have a to be list.
Yes.
It's so in the morning when I do my meditation, the intention is not what do I have to do, but who do I have to be? How am I showing up to the world, to my family, to my colleagues, to people? And I think if we can shift to that, the to be versus that to do, that would be so much better. And you mentioned something before, how people show up and, oh my God, I'm having such a bad day. And it's not it's 9 a.m. in the morning, right? How can you be having a bad day? Maybe you're just having a bad moment. Something happened, you got caught up in traffic, or someone looked at you funny. It was just a moment. And
Mhm.
move away from that, right? But people, something that you said before just triggered that, how people just say, oh, I'm having a bad day. You're not having a bad day, you're having a bad moment. And I love, and I'm going to use that because I love what your husband used to say, energy first. I love it. I think we should all adopt that when we're
Mhm.
feeling that I'm having a bad day. Energy first.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I sat in traffic for too long yesterday morning and got to the meeting, 5 minutes late. But you know
Yeah.
what? Just let it go. I'm here
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
All we can do is be here now, to
Yeah.
quote Ram Dass.
Yes. How, Lynn, can you provide some tips? Again, how can we choose that positive emotional state? Like, what are some tips that you can give us to get into that positive emotional state?
Yeah. Well, I, the one thing is to bring ourselves right into the present moment.
Yeah.
It's like, stop worrying about what's going to happen or anticipating a negative outcome on the future. It's like, bring yourself back from future time into now. Same with, allow yourself to stop ruminating about the past, dwelling on what happened or could have or should have or would have happened, but bring yourself into right now in this moment. And then pay attention to what you're feeling and sensing. If we tap into our senses, the positive intelligence folks that I've studied with, just rub your fingertips together. Just feel, sense. The Indian meditation will say, just feel the sense of the air moving into your nostrils. Just bring yourself into those feeling or hearing. What are the sounds that you can hear when you stop worrying in your brain? I can hear the furnace fan.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny
Yeah.
because as you mentioned that, I actually heard this noise became just present of a pipe actually that is
Yeah.
running.
Yeah. It's just right here, right now, in this moment, everything's okay.
Right.
And then what's the emotional tone? What's the emotional tone that I'm experiencing right now?
Mm.
Just check in. What is it that I'm feeling right now? Is it some sadness? It's some anger? Acknowledge that. It's like, maybe there's some feedback here that can tell me that there's something that's not sitting right with me. And then how would I like to be with this? It's a choice. It's a choice.
Right.
Now we've taken maybe 30 seconds to kind of, or maybe a minute to talk. You can do that a lot faster when you get practiced at it.
Right, right. And so, and again, because I think it's all about practice, right? I mean, taking charge of our energy and being present, the more we
Hmm.
do it,
Hmm.
right, the better we get at it,
Yeah.
the more present really we become, right? And then how does that influence others?
Yeah. Oh my. Oh my. Well, I'm sure you've heard of emotional contagion.
Yes.
Our mirror neurons. It's like when we're in the presence of other people, we do feel, sense, and even before we can consciously sense it. When I was studying conversational intelligence, there was quite a bit of neuroscience that came into that, and the timing in point and like a 700ths of a second, we perceive the field, the energetic field, the emotional field that someone else is putting out. Like if someone walks into the room and they're like, oh, I mean, we feel it. It's not just that we saw them like that, but we feel it, and our body, and it's actually our hearts. The heart math people will give all kinds of backup on this. That our hearts are perceiving and sending information all the time. So we do influence one another positively and negatively all the time. And so, as conscious, aware beings that we are, we can choose to be the kind of person that will have a positive influence. So it's like, okay, I'm going to have a meeting with my staff. How do I want to be with that? Do I want to, take a moment to bring my energy up and acknowledge each of them as we come in? Let's just do a little check-in before we get into here's what we need to get done today. Putting relationship before the task at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Another adage from Judith Glaser from Conversational Intelligence. But it's just really that attention and intention to bring your best self, who you want to be, how you want to be remembered for.
Huh.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
it's,
All about the impact, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
the impact is so important. And that I remember years ago, and my cousin actually said to me, as women, as mothers, as wives, right,
Mhm.
we tend to set the tone, the
Oh yeah.
emotional tone,
Yeah.
right, in the house.
Mhm.
How do we show up? It's everything could be happy, or it could be sad, or it could be chaotic. We have that power to set the tone and change the tone. And
Mhm.
I became so present to that, right? Of course, I'm at fault. And sometimes I just show up, or I get into the house because, well, okay, we got to go. But many times, actually, before I enter the house, when I come into the house, I become present too. And I remember that I set the tone. And it is that emotional energy that I'm going to bring into the house that is going to set the tone for everybody else.
Mhm.
Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And, I'm remembering back as you're saying that now, it's been a long time since I've had children in my house. My daughter's quite grown up now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I'd be off at work and I'd come home, and my husband, who's very sensitive to energy and could really, feel changes and shifts in the
Mm.
frequency when I'd come in from my workday, and he'd say, you think maybe you could make some separations from all of that before you come home instead of kind of carrying
Oh
it home
man.
with me?
Yeah.
Right. And so it takes that just again that split second to check in. What
Right.
is it I'm experiencing right now, and how do I want to be present to my loved ones now. I want to caution people, though. It's like, let's not be unreal. Like, let's not paste a smile on when that's not what's happening. There's also being real with what is. Like, you know, if I was visiting with some dear friends last night, and their dear magic kitty cat is on its last few days. And it's
Oh,
like,
man.
that's so sad.
Yeah, you can't hide that.
That's so sad. And so there's like, it's also a being real and honoring the emotions that come up as
Yes.
well.
That
And
is so important. That is so
yeah,
important, Lynn. Yes, because and you're right. It's not about hiding our emotions, especially emotions that are so deep, right? That it's almost, I like it. Let's honor those
yeah,
emotions, right? Let's be
yeah.
present. Let's honor them. And now let's try to move on, right?
Mhm.
And then let's kind of set that aside, but we honor them. We got it out. We understand what we're going through. Let's move on and try to bring other emotions that are appropriate for that
Yeah,
setting, right?
yeah. And even anger. It's like, anger really is a powerful, powerful energy. We can get things moving. Like
Oh
having,
yeah.
having our energy moving in our space is actually the most healthy way of managing, or it's like taking care of your energy is having it flowing and moving. So
Yes.
when things are feeling stuck and trapped and, you know, actually having our anger move is really beneficial and helps to create change. Now, we can have anger without dishing it out, without
Mm,
throwing it out at somebody. We could just have it in our space and just like, I'm feeling some anger here. This is upsetting me, without making it about someone. It's
right.
like interweaving all of these good practices for communication, but bringing the energy component into it. And
Right.
this was something that, so like acknowledging your own anger. It's like this is upsetting me, and what do we want to do to shift things? Um, one of the things that and again, I'll refer to my husband, he would say, people who go to relationship counseling or learn how to communicate properly, he says, like, you can say all the right words and do all the right things, but if you're not exuding and being with that energy that is accepting, allowing, and having some flow, it's not
Mhm.
going to be congruent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's he was a wise man.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you know what? What a blessing, because I think it is, for men, it tends to be harder to be in tune with their emotions. And
yeah.
it seems like he was, and
Hmm.
that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lynn, how can people learn more? If and tell us a little bit about how they can work with you. What do you offer? Please, I want to give you an opportunity to enlighten us about
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Yeah. So, and I would just say there are lots of ways that people can learn more about this. I mean, there are lots of people teaching meditation practices and, emotional intelligence. There's all kinds of ways. I love to work with people who want to take this pathway. Um, I have some recorded meditations that I can make available to people. I have a website. It's livinginvision.com, where people can find me and reach out. There's, sign up to have a conversation with me and that kind of thing. So I do everything from offer just, a one-off, let's look at this particular situation for yourself, or some longer term coaching to address, specific issues that they're dealing with. Um, Often with leaders, it's, they're taking on new responsibilities. It's, put them a little outside of their comfort zone. And so they want to really be their best self in this new position and make sure that they're building high performing teams.
Yes,
And
perfect.
yeah,
What I'm going to do, Lynn, I am going to put your coordinates on the podcast description, so everybody has access to it. I'm going to put the links
yeah,
to get in touch with you. So absolutely, I mean, anyone, any leader, professionally or personally, anyone who's looking to really either build their high performing teams or grow as a leader, I think
yeah.
they should definitely get in touch with you, because there is so much to learn, and that growth that we aspire to as leaders, as people, as parents, as anything is something that I know you can help with. So
Mhm.
um, thank you, Lynn. I do have a question for
Yeah.
you. If you had a magic wand, what would you wish for? What would you change? What would you make happen?
Oh, where do I start?
Right.
Yeah, I guess I would when you ask that, I would love to have people recognize how much influence they do have. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who do recognize that. But for those who doubt that they have any influence in the world or that they can make a difference, that they just go, oh yeah, I can.
Mm.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I can make a difference. Just in how I show up each moment.
I love that. I love that because imagine if every person in the world would understand that about themselves, that every everything, every little thing that they do, they can influence someone else, they can change someone else, they could just make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And that everybody has the potential to do that. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that, Lynne.
Yeah. Thanks.
Lynne,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here with us at Call Me Crazy with Shiri Gabriel. And I can't wait to collaborate and work with you more. And I'm going to be seeing you next week
Yeah.
again on our
Yeah.
workshop. So thank you again for being here. Stay safe, be well, and continue to enlighten and help a lot of people. I appreciate you for that.
Thank you, Sherry. It's been a pleasure.
This has been another episode of Call Me Crazy with Shiri Gabriel. Make sure to join in next week for a new episode, and if you would like to contact Miss Gabriel about speaking or training at your next conference, function, or event, visit shiri.coach.